Welcome to the third of 3 videos in which I describe my practicum project. To recap from the previous videos, in the first video I declared my intention to become a digital nomad, and thus I'm concerned about getting a strong, stable Wi-Fi connection wherever I happen to be. In the second video, I determined that the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi signals broadcast further than the 5 gigahertz signals, and that external USB Wi-Fi adapters can offer improved connectivity if your Wi-Fi connection isn't great. In this video, I'm going to discuss the practical value of my research. Digital nomads need to know where they can find public access points, and we're going to search for public access points right now. The cable television franchise for much of the Houston area is Comcast, operating under the Xfinity brand. If a Comcast internet subscriber chooses to use the cable modem provided by Comcast, that cable modem broadcasts a network separate from that of the subscriber, a network which other Comcast subscribers are free to use when they're in the vicinity. If I wanted to know where these semi-public access points are, what can I do? On Comcast's website, they list the access points at businesses, but it appears they don't map the residential access points. And sometimes it might be nice to know where the residential access points are. I am ameliorating this state of affairs. This map shows each unique Xfinity access point I encountered during my travels and its calculated location. Each access point is a different color. The dots show where the access point was detected at the street with a signal strength of at least -70 dBi. I chose -70 dBi because that's a minimum level needed to accomplish useful work. The accuracy of the access point locations is not particularly good, but this map does do a good job of showing where one ought to be able to find a signal usable from the street. As this is my own neighborhood, I'm not relying on these access points for connectivity, but it's still good information for testing and troubleshooting purposes. There's one very interesting outlier I want to discuss. It's always a good idea to understand your outliers, and besides, it's fun to see what's going on with the outliers. Using this nice external USB long-range adapter, I determined that at a usable signal strength, on average, 5 gigahertz signals project 24 meters or so from their origin under the conditions in my neighborhood. So, it was very unusual to detect this 5 gigahertz access point from 400 meters away. It turns out this is an outdoor access point. Although it was 400 meters away, I had a line of sight view of the access point, which was unencumbered by vegetation or buildings. I approached the access point from the south. Note that the Wi-Fi adapter is in front of the windshield, but when I passed the access point, the signal would have had to penetrate the car's roof and sides, and that's why values drop off rapidly once I pass the access point. Outdoor access points are always a good resource, and it's interesting to find good outdoor access points. To wrap up my project, I ponder the question, is 2.4 gigahertz dead? For many types of workloads, 5 gigahertz is distinctly superior. But when range becomes an issue, particularly in scenarios in which the user does not control the placement of the access points, the 2.4 gigahertz band is what you need. As long as you have a decent signal, the 2.4 gigahertz band can do everything a telecommuter needs to do. Log into the company's VPN, use email, do video conferencing, use Dropbox. So, the 2.4 gigahertz frequency still has its place, and I hope that the operators of public access points will leave the 2.4 gigahertz frequency enabled. Well, This brings us to the end of my 3-part series on my USD Practicum project. As a parting thought, I invite you to consider whether knowledge work or creative work must necessarily be bound to an office, or any geographic location for that matter. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you out on the road. So long.